Okay, good morning and welcome to anybody listening or watching this. I'm Paul Green from the business community, and I'm pleased to be joined by Mhairi Richardson of Tomrom Team Coaching. Hi, Mhairi.
Hi, Paul. It's good to be here this morning. Not the brightest of mornings, but hopefully
No,
we'll brighten it up.
it's been a bit dull, hasn't it? So we're going to give you a bit of a grilling today, Mhairi, and just find out a little bit about your journey and hopefully pick up some hints and tips on your area of expertise. So do you want to kick off and just let people know who you are and what your business is?
Okay, so I'm Mhairi, and I'm a team performance coach. And what that means is I work with leading teams to improve their productivity and their achievement levels. And we do that by getting them to align, getting them to know and trust each other better and understand, and work together towards a common goal.
Okay. So how did you end up doing that then? What's your journey to be being a team coach?
It's quite a long journey.
Okay.
So, what I usually say is, I'm the second child of four, born in 6 years. So being part of a team is in my blood. I grew up as part of a team of four, and for many reasons, that's exactly kind of how we see ourselves. It's great being one of four because you've always got somebody on your side. We never
Mhm.
seemed to split 3-1. It was always 2 against 2. So that helped.
An even fight.
Yeah, exactly. And then I took up netball at the age of 8, I think. And I played netball up until 3 years ago. And for those of you who don't know, netball is a team sport for 7 players on court. Which to me is the perfect team, perfect number of people, everybody working towards a common goal, but within their own areas. I played, coached, managed, umpired netball over the years, and learnt an awful lot about teamwork through that. And I then started a career with Sainsbury's when I left school. And went through their management training program, which was amazing. Full credit to Sainsbury's for that. Took an 18-year-old and put her in charge of a bunch of people and made her feel like she was capable of doing so. But yeah, absolutely, everything they taught me was really valuable, and I have relied on a lot of it over the years. I like to think I've developed some more skills and gained more experience.
Mhm.
But it was a very great grounding starting place. Then I started a little family of my own and was looking for something that didn't require me to work at the weekends. And I started working with a small wholesale business in the town where I lived, which we then grew from a relatively small business to a quite large business now, with a very significant turnover and a large number of staff. And during that growth period, it was over a number of years, 18 years I was there. When I started, I was taking in deliveries and packing up deliveries to be sent out, dealing with customers, placing orders, doing everything myself because I was me a lot of the time. And over the years, we grew teams of people to do all of those roles for us. And that was my role to some degree, was to develop those teams and to give them the skills they required. And then latterly, it was to develop a leadership team who hopefully could support and then ultimately replace me. And I really enjoyed doing that. But it was time for me to move on in my journey, and I moved here to the Midlands.
Mhm.
And as part of that transition, I decided that I would look at doing more of what really engages me and empowers me, and makes me feel positive, and that's working with people to achieve more than they think they can, to help people to see more clearly. And so coaching and mentoring was really an obvious choice. And teams is my happy place, really, working with groups of people. I think that we learn so much from each other. You don't have to be a front of the room teacher. You can learn an awful lot through collaborative discussion, which is why I run book clubs as well, but I'm sure we'll cover that later.
We'll cover that later, yeah.
Yeah. So that's me, and that's how I came to be where I am.
So when was Tomrom born then?
Tomrom Team Coaching really was born about 18 months ago.
Okay. And where does the name come from, Tomrom?
Okay, so it's the name of our house. Well, actually, the name of our house is Tomrom. We built our own house, and that doesn't mean we paid somebody to come and build it. It does mean we actually did some serious building ourselves. And my partner lived in Norway and he really loved his time in Norway. So it's Tomrom means 2 empty spaces.
Okay.
And our house has over the front door and over the back a void, so a double height space basically. So that's it's a much more practical answer than most people expect, I think. But
okay.
So our house means 2 voids.
Okay. It was just always something that I was intrigued as to, where the name came from, which with a number of people, they have some unusual names sometimes. So I just thought I'd find that out while you were here. So so you do team coaching. Is that a preference over one-to-one coaching, or do you do some one-to-one coaching as well?
I do one-to-one coaching as well. I specifically like to do leadership coaching with new leaders, people who everybody knows that people are promoted into roles, management roles, because they're good at their job, not because they're good managers. And I like to help people learn how to be good managers too, and good leaders, and how to look after their people. So that's the area that I work in. And I do a little bit of mentoring for people who are starting up their own businesses because of the experiences that I've had.
So who would be an ideal client for you then? Who do you like to work with? Who do you like getting your teeth into?
Okay, so you're going to have to go with my ultimate definition of my ideal customer. I like to call them dirty businesses. So, and nothing untoward, I guess. But what I'm really talking about is there are people within the business who have to physically work. For me, an ideal SME to work with is one that has grown, but it has multiple departments. So it will have dispatch or picking and packing or warehousing, but it also then has customer service and finance and marketing. So you have these individual departments within a company. And for me, the team coaching work comes in getting those people to appreciate each other and to start working together rather than against each other, which traditionally tends to be what happens.
And you've just started, I think, interviewing some businesses. So do you want to tell some dirty businesses? So do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're looking to achieve with that, and also if there's anybody listening, the type of business that you're looking to interview?
Okay, so the type of business I'm looking to interview is, as I've just described, that your perhaps your department heads they're not university graduates. They're people who do a really good job and have been promoted because of that and their loyalty to the company. But you also have people that you've brought in, and I'm interested in people's journeys, really, how they've got to where they are, how they see the future, how they've managed to make their business thrive or at least survive in the last year. And happy to talk to anybody because I think those stories are worth sharing. These businesses generally tend to be quite head down. They don't necessarily promote their business and what they do. They do to their customers, but not to the wider world. And I think there are a lot of really, really positive messages within those businesses. And I like to tell those stories for them.
And I think it's early days. So where will people end up finding these interviews once you've completed doing them?
Good question.
I thought so.
Mostly on my website,
Okay.
because they're not going to be video stories. Certainly not in the early days. They're going to be written up, old school interview style, and I'll do a blog series, promote them through social media, and on my website. Later on, I might look to do video interviews and have them on YouTube. But at the moment, the idea is to have them all on paper.
Okay, that's great. So you're familiar with Simon Sinek's The Why You're in Business. May have been one of the books you've read in your book club, or possibly mine. I think we did it in mine when I was running mine. So what's your why, Mhairi?
Okay. To make a difference, I think. To know that seems quite weak, but it's to know that my life was for more than just, buying my last pair of shoes, or I resisted being a coach for about 8 or 9 months, because I didn't think it was the right path for me. And then I started working with some amazing people across a cross section of the UK, in different roles and different departments, and the joy I got from that was inexplicable. And I just really realized that that's why I'm here. That's what makes me tick, is helping people move from point A to point B, really, in their psychology, maybe, but just helping people and supporting people get over some of the little hurdles that life puts in the way.
So you're very generous, in my experience, and supportive of people, and you've got a very positive philosophy. You look to see the good in people. Would that be a fair comment? So how was that? Because I guess that's a mindset, isn't it? Rather than be a grumpy old man like me, you've chosen to see the world in a different way, maybe, or look at people in a different way that some might. So how did that philosophy come about? And is that part of your why as well, would you say?
It's definitely, there will be people who potentially are listening in who will think that that's not the Mhairi I know. I come from a very cynical background, I think, and myself can be very cynical. So it is a positive choice that I've made. I think things have happened in my life that have made me incredibly thankful, grateful, and appreciative. And now I believe that all we have left at the end of the day are human relationships. So why squander them? And it's my mission is to go, a whole month without judgment, without making a single judgment. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. But it does. When you stop judging other people, you stop judging yourself and thinking that other people are judging you, and then it makes you a happy person. That all sounds a bit fluffy, but that's truly why I am the way I am. I think I think there is, well, that I think people are beautiful, and the longer you know them, the more beautiful they become.
I do know that. That's why I was sort of alluding to, I guess. So I see you as a very supportive person. Who supports you
My partner, Ross, he's not a talker necessarily, and I think that's great. So sometimes he does have to listen to me theorizing about the latest. Do you think this is why people do this and this is why people do that? But he's also very straightforward. You know, there's no complication. My children, huge support from my children, Liam and Chan, and they just they just being in my life is such a luxury and a pleasure, and I feel really privileged that they spend as much time with me as they do, so as they are proper grown-ups now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So outside the current situation, which I think has affected most businesses, on your journey to where you are now, what's been the biggest challenge that you've faced, and how did you overcome that?
I think there have been a few challenges along the way. Gosh, the biggest challenge. I'd be rubbish in an interview, wouldn't I?
Too late.
Too late now. Yeah,
You're in one.
I think all of my challenges have been around, realistically, my own mindset, if I'm honest, and perhaps that's part of the reason I coach, is because we limit ourselves so much of the time. You know, we make assumptions about what other people think, and yes, so the biggest hurdle I've overcome is myself, and sort of getting out of my own way in terms of my doubt. This journey, you know, leaving a career that I loved, a company that I loved, people that I loved, to come and do this, which, you know, had the added benefit of living with Ross too, permanently, has been a huge challenge. Yes, probably this has been the biggest challenge, because I didn't have the reassurance of an employer or you know, or a boss. I didn't have that safety net. This is just me, and you know, when your biggest hurdle to overcome is yourself and your own limiting beliefs, that can be really difficult. So I'm very proud of how well I think I've done. There's been a lot of support. Sorry, I did fail to mention the number of people who support me professionally, from a host of coaches who support me just because I'm part of the community, plus people who are my personal coaches, who've also really helped me get there. But definitely that's the biggest hurdle for me.
You've probably touched on it already in some of your other answers, that there's quite a few coaches out there. What would make you different, do you think, from your competitors versus another coach?
I think my experience, to some degree, is it's a different path to coaching. I like to think I've made so many of the mistakes that it's easier for me to relate to those people. What else? People do say that they know they will get the truth from me,
whether they want it or not.
Yeah, and yeah, so I think that's fairly true. I don't. Over the years, you know, working with developing teams and leaders, I've lost the fear of saying things that are uncomfortable. I think there are ways of saying things that make it more comfortable, but it is better to say these things than not say them. actually to have open conversations.
Mm-hmm.
People find it a little unnerving, but you do have to say sometimes that this isn't working, and that doesn't mean it's the end, but it means we have to have a conversation about why it isn't working.
Yeah, move forward from that, absolutely. So I know you go out networking. I think you attend quite a few diverse, different networking groups. Obviously, they're all virtual now. What do you look for when choosing a networking group, and what had you choose some of the ones that you're part of now?
I think for me, there are two reasons to network. One is to make new connections. It's important for me to get out and about and to be seen and to be heard. As you alluded to, what makes me different from any coach, people aren't going to know that if they don't meet me.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to buy the business card. They
Mm-hmm.
need to speak to me and work out whether or not I'm the right person for them. So I network for exposure, to get my name out there. So I network within the chamber, which is very useful for that. But I also network for community, and BuzzCon particularly has been very, very supportive in that way. I was having a conversation with somebody just this morning, actually, about networking and the benefits of having a supportive community network. And I also like smaller networks sometimes because it's that team dynamic for me. Collective business owners brainstorming is quite powerful for me, and I really enjoy those sessions. Yeah, and that's it. But I'm a bit of a tart from a networking point of view. I do I do go to to find new connections and new businesses, because I find meeting new people really interesting.
We heard it first here. Mhairi is a networking tart. Threw me a little bit. I've got another thread then that I was going to ask. Oh, yeah. So we're obviously online at the moment, and it's been probably longer than most thought it would be. And it's probably going to last into, I guess, spring next year, unless this vaccine, is rolled out early and has people feel confident enough to come out. What are your thoughts on I guess it being online now, and the differences and maybe the frustrations, and what do you see going forward?
Networking or coaching?
Networking, really.
I think from a time perspective, it's really good to network online. But I am part of a networking group that met face to face through August, September, and October. And I would say that was a very different experience in terms of building relationships and being open and transparent. I think it's very similar in a way to team coaching. One-to-one coaching over Zoom or Teams or whatever is fine. Realistically, you're face to face. It's very focused. In many ways, it's more focused. So that can be really useful.
Do you think? Sorry, Karen.
But I think to get that sense of community or collective humour, sometimes that can be really tricky on Zoom. In the same way that working with a team, you can't get that same intensity that although we do make it work on book clubs. So.
Yeah. Do you think it's harder now in the sort of like sales process without that physical face-to-face interaction to pick up new clients, to close new deals? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not a salesperson per se, but I think, yes, it is more difficult. I think people are I find it much more difficult to read the signs than they would face to face.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, I have said this before. I think I do some client work where it's just on the phone, and so you can't see anything. So you've never had those visual triggers.
Mm.
And actually, I really like it because it really encourages you to properly listen, to listen to the words that are being used, the tone that they're using, rather than just the content of what they're saying. So I think from a sales point of view, it's the disconnect is much easier. It's much easier to go, yeah, thanks very much, bye, than it is face to face. Face to face, you've committed the time, the energy, the handshake. Whereas over Zoom, you don't have that. So I think it's easier to reject somebody. But I think in terms of building relationships, which for me is what selling should really be about, I think you can do that over Zoom.
Okay. So I've alluded to the book club. So tell us all about it. What's the intention of it? Why did you set it up? Who's it for? And what are you looking to achieve with your book club?
Okay, so it's a book club that focuses mostly on leadership books or books that cover elements of leadership. It's open to anybody who is interested in reading those sorts of books, people who are looking to broaden their mind, find other ways to think about problems, to improve themselves without it being self-help kind of books. And on our very first session, I asked everybody that came to the group what they were hoping to get from book club, and then they asked me what I was hoping to get out of it. And the answer to that question is it is my facilitating that learning, encouraging people to talk about what they've got from things, to challenge what other people have understood, to see different people's perspectives. I just really enjoy being in that space, and I get so much more from the discussion than I do from reading the book. And I just really enjoy it. So it's, well, for me, it seems really selfish, a selfish thing that I do because I enjoy it so much. It forces me to read books, more books perhaps, and more diverse books without a shadow of a doubt than I would normally, because the people who, the book clubbers, they get to choose the books that we read.
No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I wasn't very widely read in terms of business books at all. It's partly why I started my book club originally, because if I'm running one, then I can't not read the book because I'm facilitating the meeting, so you can't really get out of that. But now I'm part of yours, and I still read the books, as you know, because I think it's, like you say, it's the discussion around the book and hearing people's viewpoints, particularly when there's sometimes some quite diverse views, aren't there, in terms of a book, and you get another person's perspective on it. So I think that's part of the fun, just wondering whether people feel the same.
Yeah, we always like it, don't we, when someone doesn't like the book, because then you get much more animated discussion, I think. But again, people do have to be pushed into, not pushed. I think I like to think that everybody gets to have their say, and even if they thought me about the book, they still get to say that and why they got that. And then, when you listen to everybody else, those people then go, well, yeah, no, actually, I found that really useful, or, I completely disagree. I thought that was very self-centered and boring. So
yeah. Well, Hannah's a fan. She's just popped up. Hi, Hannah. So I think that's it for the questions that I had. You were kindly going to do a little bit of an education slot now, aren't you? And share some of your expertise with us. So if you're happy to do that, I'll just change the camera shot and really just hand it over to you if you want to introduce it and go for it.
Okay. So quite often people ask me, why should I have a coach? And I've got a long list of answers that I will give you at the end of this video. Let me just make sure that I'm timing myself properly. So why would you have a coach? Because you've got something that isn't working, or there's something you want to achieve and you don't know how to achieve it, or because you feel that you need that extra support, that somebody who's going to be on your side and you feel quite isolated. I think those are sort of three fairly basic reasons why you would look to have a coach. But if you are asking that question, and a coach isn't always the right solution, in my opinion, they can be incredibly helpful. But I've got three basic questions that I would suggest you ask yourself before you think about getting a coach. So the first one is, what is it? What is the area that you require support or clarity or focus or drive around? What is it that you're trying to achieve by asking for help? We all need help. We all have situations where we need somebody to help us, but we are quite often reluctant to ask for that help. We make all sorts of assumptions and excuses about why we can't ask for help or why people wouldn't be interested in helping us. We assume they don't know any more than we do, or we make excuses. They're too busy. They wouldn't want to help me. They're not interested in my problems. So we don't ask. So I think it is important to be really clear with yourself as to what it is you want to know, and that can help you with who you should ask for help from. So, and sometimes just defining that problem, working out the what, really examining within yourself, asking yourself, well, why am I not getting here? Why have I not got this problem? Can sort it out on its own, just by asking yourself those questions. But what is the problem? But what really is the problem? You can answer it yourself, at which point you don't need to ask somebody else for help, and you don't need a coach. So it's really important to be clear on what it is that you want help with. And then the next question is who? Who should I go to for help? Hopefully, the majority of us have people in our lives that we can call on for support. We have parents, we have colleagues, we have business associates, all friends, family that we can call on to ask if they can help us. And once you've discovered what your what is, what the problem is, then that will help you define who is the right person for you. And I think once you've sorted your what and your who, this is the point at which you think, is the who my best friend, or is the who a coach? Now, the reason a coach is different is a coach is independent and their responses do not have an impact on their life. So whereas your friend, if your friend says, that's a really stupid idea, you shouldn't do that, 10 years down the line, you've got that little bit of, oh, maybe I should have done it, but they talked me out of it, and they've got their own agenda, whereas a coach doesn't have their own agenda. They're there for you and to get the best out of you. So you've done your what, you've worked out who, and then it's just how, and how you want them to help you and how you're going to ask for help. And that's quite straightforward. You can Google a coach if you want to. I would strongly recommend that you ask people to recommend a coach for you rather than Google somebody. Or it's somebody in your network that you want to reach out to, or you could ask for a mentor. You could ask somebody at work to mentor you, or you can speak to a family member that you trust and you value their opinion and you believe that they will be unbiased in their response. So that's it, really. Those are my advice around, do you need a coach and how would you approach one? Just to give you a little summary, I guess. For me, a coach is your cheerleader. They are the one person championing you and your needs. So a coach will be objective. They will see issues in a detached way, much more than you or anyone else can. They will help you clarify what you're good at and why you're good at those things. They'll help you to identify what you're not so good at and help you decide what, if any, action you need to take around that. And they'll help you to overcome any blocks and build new behaviours to help you achieve what you want to. And that's it. That's my advice on why you should have a coach.
There you go. Thank you very much. I believe everybody should have an external influence of some kind, ear to bend, shoulder to cry on, whatever that might be. I wouldn't recommend Googling to find a coach. I'd go networking, I'd meet people, I'd get recommendations, I'd listen to people's experience of having a coach or a mentor. And I think, if every business could just do with somebody from the outside, looking in, sometimes asking silly questions about the business, sometimes challenging that business's viewpoint because they might be stuck in a certain place, asking those hard questions that you touched on earlier, because it shouldn't necessarily be a perfectly smooth ride, because business isn't a perfectly smooth ride, and having someone to maybe ask those questions that you're afraid to ask yourself, or you're burying your head in the sand. I think it's definitely important to get someone. So if you're listening to this, then just go and find somebody that can help you through business, because it can be a tough old place and a lonely place to be, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think somebody said to me recently that they didn't want a business coach in this case, but because they didn't want that person to tell them everything they were doing wrong, and which I thought was incredible. That's not how I see the role of a coach at all. But also you could have 3 conversations with a coach, and that could change your life. It's not necessarily something you have to sign up forever to. I was talking to somebody earlier who's had 5 over a 10-year journey in their business. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's again, it goes back to the what was the issue and who is the right person to help you with that issue. And the person who's helped you with issue 1 isn't necessarily the right person to help you with issue 2. But yes, you're right. I do think it helps to have that independent voice. It certainly helped me back before, when I was working in business. I had somebody that I could speak to, and that was really, really helpful. I found it invigorating, and I spoke to her maybe once every year. It really wasn't an often, but it would just kick me and really get me quite excited about the future, and it gave me that time to think clearly. More than anything, if I was trying to sum up what she'd said to me, it would be hardly anything. But it would be that she would just ask the questions to push me into getting those thoughts out. And that's it. I think we are all quite busy in our business. And what a coach can do is give you that time out to sort of think differently and stop running.
Absolutely. So given your experience, if you were just to give one top tip for any business, what would that be?
I should have rehearsed this. My one top tip. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Okay.
I think, yes. Yeah. And as it would be for most people as well. But yeah, I think that we as a society are embarrassed to ask for help quite often. And I think we need to be braver and say, actually, I'm not the expert here. Let me get an expert in. And I don't need it. It's like team coaching. People say to me, isn't that an insult to the leader that they have to bring in the team coach? And I said, no, it's an absolute compliment. They get, they're saying that this isn't, I want a professional to do this. I want a professional to be working with my team. I want to put that investment into my team. I'm still part of that team, but I'm also the leader. I want someone professional to be doing that development, not me. And that means they can still do their job as well as lead the team.
I think it's a great tip. I think that is where business can sometimes get in a little bit of a mess, is not asking for help and not asking help soon enough, particularly some of the insolvency practitioners that we meet network. I think their biggest frustration is companies come to them too late. So their options are limited in terms of what they could do, because they probably could have done more had the business come to them earlier. So, but yeah, I would say, don't bury your head in the sand. Go and ask someone, particularly networking wise. There's a very supportive group of people out there that are willing to give you advice and support without necessarily generating an invoice. So don't let that put you off if you think that all of a sudden, someone's going to charge you for advice. I just think, particularly in the current circumstances, that people are probably more supportive now than they've been before, because they recognise that need, really. So your ordeal is over, Mhairi. Thank you ever so much for giving me some time out of your day, because I know you're a busy girl like most of us are, but I do really appreciate you coming on, sharing your journey, sharing some of your knowledge. And how do people get in touch with you? I've got your number and your website there. I guess they can just search you on LinkedIn and connect with you there. And I would recommend that. Mhairi shares some quite engaging posts, particularly on LinkedIn, and you do the occasional video, don't you? I'm not sure whether there's any regularity to that, but I know you share some stuff, and I think most of your posts are of the engaging type rather than the broadcasting type. So I think people are going to find it useful connecting with you on wherever platform they find you. So we'll end the broadcast now.
Okay. It's been really lovely to be here. Thank you, Paul.